Bro, let's be real for a second. Most people don't actually struggle with conversations. They struggle with starting them. Like you'll see somebody you want to talk to, but your brain just freezes up. You start thinking, what do I say? Is this going to be awkward? Am I about to look weird? And before you know it, the moment passes. Because I'm going to tell you something most people don't realize. Starting a conversation is actually way easier than people make it. It's not about being super outgoing, it's not about being the funniest person in the room, and it's definitely not about having some crazy pickup line. The real trick is simple. You just gotta stop putting pressure on yourself and start being curious about the other person. You feel me? Because most people mess up conversations in two ways. First, they overthink everything. They're trying to come up with the perfect thing to say, so they end up saying nothing at all. Second, they start with boring questions that go nowhere. Stuff like, how are you? Or what's up? And bro, let's be honest. When somebody says, what's up? The conversation usually dies right there. But good conversations usually start with simple observations and questions. So I'm going to give you 5 easy methods you can use to start a conversation with anyone. Method number 1, the observation method. One of the easiest and most natural ways to start a conversation is by simply noticing something around you and talking about it. You don't have to come up with something clever, you just point out something happening in the moment. For example, imagine you're standing in line at a coffee shop. Instead of just standing there silently scrolling on your phone like everybody else, you could say something like, yo bro, you tried the drinks here before? I'm trying to figure out what's actually good. Now the other person has something easy to respond to. Maybe they'll recommend something, maybe they'll say they're trying the place for the first time too. Either way, the conversation just started. Or imagine you're at the gym. You could say something like, yo cuh, do you know if this machine usually stays busy around this time? Now you're talking about something both of you are already experiencing. That's why the observation method works so well. It doesn't feel random, it doesn't feel forced, it just feels like normal conversation. And the more you practice this, the more you'll realize that almost any situation has something you can comment on. Method number 2, the compliment method. Another powerful way to start conversations is by giving genuine compliments. And I'm not talking about fake compliments. People can tell when you're forcing it. But if you actually notice something cool about someone, just say it. For example, maybe someone is wearing some clean sneakers. You could say, bro, those shoes are tough. Where you get them from? Or maybe someone has a cool hoodie or jacket. You could say, yo, that hoodie is clean. What brand is that? Now you've opened the door for a conversation. Maybe they tell you where they got it. Maybe they start talking about fashion. Maybe they ask you what kind of shoes you like. But either way, the conversation started with positive energy. Compliments work so well because people naturally like being appreciated. And when the compliment is real and specific, it instantly makes the interaction feel friendly. Method number 3, the context method. Another great way to start conversations is by using the situation you're both in. If you're at school, work, an event, or even waiting somewhere, you already share a common environment with the person, so you can use that as your conversation starter. For example, if you're in class, you could say, bro, have you taken this class before? I heard the exams be crazy. Now you're talking about something both of you are dealing with. Or if you're at an event, you could say, so what brought you here today? That question is simple, but it opens the door for a lot of conversation. Maybe they tell you they came with friends. Maybe they're interested in the topic. Maybe they're just checking the place out. The point is, you're using your shared environment to create a connection, and that makes the conversation feel natural instead of random. Method number 4, the opinion method. Another great conversation starter is asking people for their opinion. Because bro, people love sharing their opinions. When you ask someone what they think about something, they naturally want to explain their perspective. For example, you could ask something like, yo, is this place actually worth the hype? Or, what's the best food spot around here? Now, instead of giving a short answer, they'll usually start explaining their experience. Maybe they recommend a restaurant. Maybe they tell you a story about a place they tried. Opinion questions work really well because they give people something interesting to talk about. And once someone starts sharing their opinion, the conversation usually flows naturally from there. Method number 5, the follow-up method. Now, this one is the real secret. Starting the conversation is only step 1. What really keeps the conversation alive is follow-up questions. Let's say you start talking to someone and they say, "Yeah, I just moved here from California." Most people would respond with something like, "Oh, that's cool." And then the conversation dies right there. But instead, you could say something like, "What made you decide to move out here?" Or, "How different is it compared to California?" Now the conversation keeps going. Maybe they talk about work. Maybe they talk about school. Maybe they talk about their experience moving. Follow-up questions show that you're actually paying attention, and when people feel like you're genuinely interested in what they're saying, they become way more comfortable talking with you. So, if you remember anything from this video, remember this simple formula: observation, question, follow-up. You don't need the perfect line. You don't need to be the smoothest person in the room. All you got to do is be curious and be the one who speaks first. Because the truth is, bro, most people are actually down to talk. They're just waiting for someone else to start the conversation. So next time you see somebody you want to talk to, don't overthink it. Just say something. You feel me?